Hi, I'm Paul. So in this video, I'm going to talk about how getting rid of the ego expands your consciousness. So I've just been having another look into the purpose of the ego whilst meditating. So I did a video yesterday called Purpose of the Ego. So if you've not seen that, this video might not make full sense, but I'll try and make it more understandable. So in the video yesterday that I said about the purpose of the ego, I said that the ego is trying to gain control or keep in order the function of thought. So the ego itself is the attachment to thought, or attachment to memory, because thought is memory. So the ego is trying to focus on, let's say, a small fraction of memory thought, which sort of builds some secure structure of a self. So it keeps on trying to focus on a small area, let's say, and it's always trying to find more positive thoughts. Like I described yesterday, if you're going on holiday next week, then the ego will be trying to focus on that to stay away from the rest of the contents of thought or memory. And you see, if all positive thoughts start to fail, then other parts of the memory or thought start coming through, and that can be quite threatening. So I spotted something else today whilst I was meditating to do with this. So I just wanted to add it to it. So I noticed that there is another part of the brain which kind of brings together the inner world and the outer world. So let's say the outer world triggers off senses, like your touch, smell, and sight, and hearing, and so on. So the outside world triggers off these senses. Now it seems there's a part of the brain, which firstly these senses, let's say, stimulate. And this part of the brain connects the internal world with the outside world. So, firstly, there's a stimulation. Then it hits this part of the brain, which then this brain connects to the internal world, as in memory, experiences, beliefs, and so on. And then it filters, let's say filters what you see of the outside world, which is, your consciousness. So in a sense, this is, in a sense, if your ego is only trying to focus on a small part of memory or thoughts or beliefs or so on, then this part of the brain, which the senses first touch, would then only collide with the small section of memory, let's say, that you focus on. And when these two come together, that would be the bit of the world that you see. Now, in psychology, we say that the ego only sees 5% of everything, which means that you're only allowing through 5% from the outside. You're only focusing on 5%, which means that you've only got 5% of consciousness. So it seems to me that by, let's say, opening up the memory, the thoughts, experiences in the brain, rather than the ego just focusing on a small section, the more that this brain is open, let's say, then when the outside world comes to contact with the senses and it stimulates this, let's say, first part of the brain, this first part of the brain then looks at, let's say, the whole of your memory. Because it seems that this first part of the brain only, let's say, only allows through what collides with your beliefs, let's say, your memories, your beliefs. So if you only have a small part of your memory or a small part of your beliefs, then only a small part of consciousness is actually going to get through. But the more we open our memories, would it be open them into consciousness? Perhaps. The more that we open our memories, our beliefs, our ideas, the more that we become open to, let's say, rather than trying to control. And the more of the outside world comes in. Now, I'm not sure if the outside world is the consciousness. It probably isn't. I think the consciousness is where the outside collides with the inside. Because then your brain, let's say, makes up. It doesn't make up. It doesn't make up. Creates reality. So the more open your mind is, the more open you are to reality. More fulfilling, let's say. But if you're only focused on a tiny little bit of your thoughts, I mean, you know, the idea of narcissism seems to come into mind here. So they would be focused just on themselves, just on what's important to themselves. Let's say they're just focused on money. And the only reality that you're going to see outside would be anything to do with money, anything to do with me, anything to do with my ideas. So in a sense, it seems that trying to hold your thoughts or hold your focus on particular thoughts may change what you see of reality. This doesn't mean it changes what reality comes in. So in a sense, it doesn't actually change reality, it just changes what you see of it. Now, I know a lot of people say that we make up reality in our own brains or minds, and we can change reality by changing our beliefs. Now, I'm not too sure we could change reality so much so that I could become a monkey or I could start flying. Maybe that's possible. I don't know. Maybe not. But it certainly does seem that we can change reality to a possibly quite a distance from what it is for a lot of us, I guess. But I did say that you can change reality with beliefs, not with thought. It seems the ego just tries to focus on thought, tries to control thought. But by controlling the thought, never actually changes the brain cells, just keeps you focused on one small area. So it seems to me to really actually change this part of the brain, which, let's say, brings the outside and the inner world together. Firstly, you have to open up your mind fully, which then opens up consciousness because it allows more of the outside world in. But this, I'm not sure, would change reality. But I think what would change reality is, let's say, if you focus or you Observe your original thought pattern. Observe your original beliefs. I mean, really look into them deep. And you change your beliefs, you change your ideas, you change your thoughts, you change your memories. And when your memories are changed, then this part of the brain, which first is stimulated by the outside world, by the senses, then when it goes into your brain, into your thoughts, into your memories, to try and paint a picture from the received senses, let's say, to your idea of reality, then we'll paint a different reality. I'm pretty sure I could have put this better, but it was a bit of a tricky one, and I've only just been looking at it briefly, but I hope it's understandable. I guess what I'm really trying to say is before thought, before memory, before anything, there's a part of the brain which receives input from the senses, then collaborates it with your past memories, experiences, and beliefs to then paint a picture of the reality that you see. And as long as you've got past memory, past beliefs, past ideas, then the reality that you're going to see will just keep on repeating itself. In other words, if I've been brought up, been neglected, my beliefs stay as being neglected because my thought pattern stays on it. So therefore, what I see in the outside world, or let's say this first part of my brain which receives the input from the outside world, then collides with my brain, my memories, and realizes it as a correlation with neglect, then starts to seek neglect in the consciousness in the outside world. I hope that makes it a little bit more understandable. I think that's all I've got to say anyway, so thanks very much for listening.